Good evening, everyone. I hope all of you had a nutritious drink. The nutritious drink actually will start after one more session, but I hope all of you had a coffee or a tea, which will help you to maybe energize all of us and listen to this session. So, kai baar, when people ask me, where do you stay? I often say that I live in Metaverse. That's where we were 2 years back, and that's what we were doing. एक इंटरेस्टिंग कॉन्सेप्ट मुझे अभी रिसेंटली विच आई लर्नड वाज आई वाज पार्ट ऑफ one session at Singapore FinTech Festival, and I asked a banker, what are you doing with the metaverse? Whether it will help you or not, or how will it help you? So he said that, look, generally what happens now is a customer comes to me and with a property or something, and my person who disburses a loan, home loan basically, takes a lot of time in understanding where the property is, how the house is, what is the area or something like that. And that can be actually, we can create a virtual illusion, which is nothing but a metaverse. So at one side, the builder can give the photographs and we can create that illusion where the customer can see everything. And what will happen is it will help us to speed up our decision, whether to give a loan or how much to give and all. So this is what is my little learning of metaverse. And from the previous panel, I learned from the 3 other speakers of the fintechs. But we thought this is a very, very important subject. And we tried our best to have Mr. Hitesh from ICICI Bank, to enlighten us on what the metaverse banking is, along with Vinay from IBM. So let me begin by asking a very simple question. And I will start with you, Hitesh. What does metaverse mean for banking?
So first, before getting into what metaverse means for banking, let me kind of discuss about the word meta. So it's a Greek word and it means beyond, above, or transcending. So the way I look at it is that metaverse would enhance or differentiate the way we engage and we interact. Now, in terms of how we use it, so it's a virtual environment, right? And you will also need access technologies like, VR access to access that environment. Now, banks can use this kind of environment for multiple use cases. One, banks can create their own, branches in metaverse, can be meta branches or virtual branches or whatever you call it. And 24/7, access can be provided to the customers to access those branches and they can have a feeling like they are actually walking into a physical branch. Second can be, which you rightly mentioned about, real estate. How do you kind of showcase some of the real estate and properties sitting at home or sitting at a branch to your customers, multiple, projects. That can be another use case. Apart from that, this can be also, kind of, banks can be everywhere in metaverse in terms of facilitating the payments within the metaverse, facilitating the, lending at some of the, kind of virtual environments which have been created. Those can be also use cases. And other use cases can be, how do you facilitate some of the buying of some of premium products, right, for your ultra HNI clients. So all those are kind of, multiple use cases depending on what kind of customer base you have, right? I mean, metaverse itself will require a lot of adaptability. And for that, you need to have a right set of customer base. So keeping that in mind, every bank should decide their strategy in terms of what use cases they want to pursue.
Okay, sure. Vinay, I will also take the same question with you. What does metaverse mean for banking according to you?
Yeah, so as Hitesh said, right? I mean, in the short run, it is another way to create engagement with the customer. Yeah, I mean, if you look at what most banks are trying to do today is to create that basic engagement and have a presence, through a meta branch or, some sort of presence there. In the longer run, as VR headsets become more comfortable, more affordable, there is a lot of, other use cases that will come up. Real estate, we just spoke about. another bank in in Asia, for example, is creating experience for their ultra HNIs. Again, a very niche use case if you look at it. The other thing, banks can use it, and COVID has made us comfortable with the whole virtual concept, purely from an education standpoint, right? Within your banks, if you are trying to do education and training for your employees and you're spread all over the country, that's another interesting use case, which is more in-house. So it's a continuum. I think it starts in the short run, and in the longer run, which is, I think, at least in India, quite far away. But as this whole virtual reality concept takes space, then you could really do transactions in the metaverse, right? Virtual real estate, facilitating things like rental agreements and mortgages and all of that there. But I think that's quite a few years down the line.
Okay, so Hitesh, let me come back to you, and if possible, can you share any case studies? Because officially no bank has launched any metaverse product right now, at least not that I know, but I'm sure many of them are actually working. So by any chance, are you working on something? Maybe if you'd like to share, if you can. And also, if you could add, what are the opportunities that you see as a banker? You already spoke about HNI, ultra HNI and real estate, but on a regular basis by using metaverse.
So I think it's all about adaptation, right? So today, VR headsets are the access technology through which you can access the metaverse. I'm sure going forward, we will have alternatives, and also the cost associated with VR headsets will also rationalize. And once it starts rationalizing, and also I mentioned about the right target audience, your customers also should adapt it, right? So if those combinations work, then there would be n number of opportunities which will come up, right? And as I mentioned, few of them, a lot of banks are actually, kind of like one of the bank in Korea has already launched a meta branch. Some of the US banks are already advising their clients to invest into metaverses. Some of the use cases are like rewards. For example, you have a lot of this non-fungible tokens, NFTs, which are used very widely in some of the metaverses. So now, can you fund those NFTs? Can you lend against those NFTs? Are the use cases which will kind of emerge as we move forward? And I think banks will keep toggling around, depending on the kind of return one sees out of it. Initially, people might think that it might be a fancy, but when you start, seeing the adaptation and the real, use cases emerging out of it, then the adaptation will increase. So that's my take on it.
Noted your point, Hitesh. So Vinay, what kind of offerings, opportunities that you see, where banks can build their business model on by using metaverse? Because even I was trying to learn whether it's a real phase or also a FOMO factor, because most of the times what's happening is people are going and doing lots of things because of FOMO, right? So what is your view here?
Yeah, I don't think it is FOMO. I think, it's like any of the, new emerging ways to engage with the customers. You've got to try multiple things. How much is the adoption, of metaverse will drive how much, how many new ideas will come in. But as I said, right, I mean, the engagement, the ability to, build a business around it, the whole ROI, I think it's still some time away, but the use cases are many, right? I mean, NFTs is another example. But what will drive adoption, I think, is two things. One is clarity on regulations, because right now the metaverse presence is really informational only, at least in India. But as there is a clarity on regulations, how do you use NFTs? Can we be custodians of those NFTs in our metaverse? How do we take, everybody's on this concept of universal app today, right? When it comes to mobile banking, can you extend this whole concept of a universal app and being present where the customer is? Gaming is big in metaverse. So if you are in gaming zone, can you create things for your gaming customers and offer them financial products, right? You sell stuff while you are playing games. So how do you drive it? So there are multiple such use cases which can be more mainstream, right? We've spoken about ultra HNI and HNI use cases in real estate and fashion and stuff like that. But those will drive the business models in the future. But a lot depends on adoption, is how I see it.
Sure. Friends, I will also take maybe one or two questions. After the question, I will ask to Hitesh. So be ready if you have any question very specific. So Hitesh, I have a very interesting, question, and this question I generally ask to a lot of innovators. So when we speak about using big data analytics and using the greater technologies or even the metaverse, my question is, ये सब use करके क्या हम अगला विजय माल्या रोक सकते हैं, default होने से? What do I mean by that is, will we have such a robust technology and innovation that we will foresee the future, the next Vijay Mallya?
So I don't know how does it connect with metaverse, but one is that one part of lending is that the human behavior, right? I mean, apart from the financial statements and the books of accounts and the overall business you see when you lend, the other important part is the founder, promoter, management team, right? How they behave, what is the quality stuff. And if you are able to kind of create more enhanced version of interaction and engagement, and if you can map it, how like in metaverse, all of us will have avatars, right? And these avatars will keep communicating with the other avatars in the different metaverses, and it can be a single avatar in a particular metaverse, or it can be different avatars in different metaverses, right? So some of these data points, if it can be assimilated and some kind of analytics can be built on it, I think some insights can be available on the behavioral aspects, right? And also some sort of financial data, if there are transaction history about the purchases or about the kind of engagement one does on the various sets of metaverses. Like for example, many of the ultra HNIs bought virtual land on Decentraland, right? I mean, so now this is a data set, right? I mean, where is that money going in, right? If you are lending to somebody, whether this money is being used for the business or it is being used to speculate, right? I mean, so this can be a data point, but I think it's really kind of too early at this point in time to create those correlations. So I think for that we need to have a lot of this adaptation, a lot of this data available, and then probably we can build analytics on top of it.
Sure, meaningful one, Hitesh. Anybody has any questions? Maybe we can take one question or two questions specifically about metaverse. Can we have a mic there at the last row, please? You're not audible. Can you just put on the mic? Yes.
Yeah. So what I understand is that metaverse is like creating a, one kind of a virtual branch, and then trying to kind of, one of the example that was given as a, showcasing a real estate property that is there. So which appears like more of an extension of the digital offering that you have. For example, enlarged video or an extended photograph. So that is what I understand. Apart from that, what I understand is it could be used for, some kind of a training, like financial training, the way, somebody spoke of gossips by a set of women, and trying to make the training a success. But so these are not game changers in the sense that it's just extension of your digital offering that you have in terms of look and feel. But the other element that the gentleman spoke about was NFT. To give an example on the NFT, the metaverse that was created by itself was sold as a digital NFT or a painting. The photocopy of the original paintings were being sold, which is actually a big thing if it develops. But it appears that those things are dying down. So where is the actual value proposition that is going to come from the metaverse? Is it just because we are able to give a more better look and feel, and it's an extension of digitization, or it's really a different game changer altogether?
So, is there a real value proposition? Hitesh, you want to answer or?
So as I mentioned, it is like what kind of target audience you have. Who are your customers? Like if you have customers, who are young millennials, they are adapting this kind of environments wherein they are already using it for games, right? And that's really big. Now, while, they are familiar with those environments, can you create, like it's all about creating customer journeys. So today you can avail banking products even if you are shopping on Amazon, right? So you made it so easier, that customer journey is so easier to avail financial products that you don't have to move out of Amazon and buy, financial products on the banking website or banking, apps. Everything is available on one single platform. So similarly, if you create right set of customer journeys for the right set of customer audience, that's very, very important. Your customer audience whom you are dealing with here, it's the key, and for that particular targeted audience, there are multiple use cases. Right. I mean, there are customers who have kind of requested that, instead of reward points, can you give us NFTs? So I'm using my credit card. On my credit card, you give me reward points, which is kind of, not widely being used, or many of them are also not aware about what my reward points are, right? There are customers who have requested that instead of that, kind of cumulatively redeem my, reward points and give me some NFTs, right? I mean, so there can be those kind of use cases which will come up, but the only thing is you have to deal with the right set of audience, and your customer base has to be, very, really targeted for this. So and then it can be a really value prop, and it's all about engagement, and in terms of how you interact, right?
Right.
So it's like today, post-COVID, all of us moved to, Zoom meetings, and we kind of became very, very familiar, very comfortable with, those kind of format. Earlier, we were all used to physical meetings. We got very familiar and comfortable with that format. Now, this is an extension of that, where it's an immersive experience, right? Where it is not 2D, it is 3D. Actually, when I'm talking to you in that virtual environment, I am able to see more, or I am able to feel it more vis-a-vis what I would have felt it on a Zoom call or, on a normal phone call, right? I mean, so it's more immersive, more engaging. Like, for example, messages did exist before WhatsApp, right? I mean, if you ask me, WhatsApp would have been created by telcos at some point in time, right? I mean, it created by somebody else, it was created by somebody else, but messages did exist. It simplified, further how one can interact and communicate. So similarly, I think it's more immersive, more engaging, and it will kind of get extended, digitization will get extended in Metaverse, provided we deal with right set of audience, right use cases, right customer segment.
It will be more or less an extension of digital offering in a way.
Yes, I think different layers for the customer experience for sure. Thanks. Can we have one more question? If you have, yes, the gentleman here. Hello. Can we have the question? Can we have the mic there, please? Request you to please be very specific.
Hi, I come from the coastal district where 6,000 fishing boats go into the sea. Because this metaverse will definitely work in terms of because they deal with GI positioning, and they sell their ware in high sea itself. Today, one fish which is cost gets them about 30 lakhs rupees, because it goes into pharma use. And also one shrinker, it weighs about 1 to 2 tons. This thing, it goes into the thing. I am saying, because this is in a metaverse, is an excellent use for bankers as well as to its customers. But how, as the gentleman rightly said, that how do you use it? How do you use in the unreachable segment of customers? This is where this is a very important issue. If you can address that one, how do you reach the unreachable?
I think it's a different question, not related to this subject. Maybe your information is very important, but I don't think this is specifically with this session. But thanks for raising that point. So let me come back to Vinay, and if you could tell us in terms of what are the operations, what are the areas, segments that a bank can shift of their business to metaverse. We partly mentioned, like Hitesh gave a great example of ultra HNI or maybe even real estate. Apart from that, or maybe how we can develop that and take it to metaverse.
So short term, let me answer it in two parts. So short term, based on what we can do today, as I said, right, the informational aspects of your interaction with the bank, some of the very simple transactions like requesting a checkbook and stuff like that. And in the morning, when Mr. Bansal from RBI Innovation Hub was speaking about, right, the challenge today with a lot of our digital interfaces is that it is very cluttered, right? I'm coming in as a customer, I just want to order a checkbook. Our current digital 2D interfaces are difficult to navigate in some cases. As he was saying, it is under this menu and sub-menu and sub-menu. Whereas if you come in and, there is, it's on your virtual wall saying, here are 5 transactions. All you need to do is click a button. The other thing that the banks can do in the short run is integrate conversational AI in your metaverse. So again, and I'm sure a lot of you have experienced it. You get a lot of, generic spam, if I may, in terms of what the banks are trying to push at you. But if you truly have conversational AI, then they can capture a lot more relevant information with you through the avatar on the bank side to really capture your information. These are still non-transactional, but these are things that you can do easily, and you don't really need a VR headset, etc. as well to do it. But it is more easier for you. It's just like speaking with another person on the other side, right? That's the short term, right? The longer term, as Web3 drives standardization and RBI brings in some sort of a regulatory framework for us, then a lot of the transactional stuff can be done there, right? Again, starting with simple things like fund transfers, etc. on the retail side, and then you can extend it even to the SME corporate banking side. But for that, I think the regularization, the regulations and some standardization is key, because at the end of the day, again, banking is a regulated industry, and you want to be very clear about at least the goal, the guideposts that you're working with. So short term, there are already quite a few use cases, and then longer term, I think this is going to be one of those things which will be gradual till it suddenly becomes a huge adoption, right?
Sure. So with that, Hitesh, I have a very important question now. Since we discussed the benefits, the opportunities, and even the business models can be built on the metaverse, the one immediate question that all the bankers will have is specifically about the risks. So what are the risks that you foresee when you go into the metaverse? Because there are a lot of already, the cyber attacks happening specifically in the gamification area, and you do not know what will happen on the dark web. And you are here directly exposing to the virtual world, where maybe the chances of getting attacked are very high. So any thoughts in terms of that you would like to highlight, how the banks can prepare themselves, or what could be the potential risks while entering on metaverse?
Yeah, so one is, data privacy. So one really needs to be cognizant of the fact that the data which will get generated, by customer engagements or interactions on the metaverse would be far more higher vis-a-vis what it gets generated during your normal course of interaction, because most of your mobile apps or your websites are, it's a 2D environment, right? However, once you get into a 3D kind of environment, virtual environment, there will be a lot more data which will get generated about the customer in terms of, and obviously customer will interact through their avatars, right, with you. So how do you protect that? That is one area, because, and second aspect is also about, feeling secured when I'm in that environment, because for adaptation, trust is the most important thing. And for banks, the key challenge would be, how do you create trust in the mind of the customer that this is safe and secure? So for that, I think the first is about making them and at least ensuring that all the data which gets generated within your metaverse environment remains safe and secure. Second is also about the kind of authentication layers you built in for access, right? Today your primary way to access is through virtual headsets. Tomorrow that will change, and lot more different sets of mode will come in. So how well you are prepared, how you allow customer to kind of use those different sets of mediums to engage. And then also interoperability, right? So for example, a customer is operating in some different environment, some different metaverse, and customer expects bank to be part of that metaverse and offer services in that metaverse, right? So if you are when you create your own environment, you have a lot of controls which you can decide and you can put in. But when you get on to the metaverses created by others, and in those environments, I think challenges would be very different, because there lot of things you have to depend on the the third party which has created metaverse, and you are kind of providing services in that metaverse. So I think it will change from which environment you're operating. But yeah, data security, authentication layers, more secured form of communication, I think some of these things would be the primary factors which one needs to be cognizant of.
So adding to that quickly, I want to also learn from you, will it be more beneficial for traditional bank, considering the big techs have already taken a huge pie in digital, if by any chance traditional banks goes to metaverse?
So at least we are not a traditional bank. We are the digital first bank, and innovation is at the core of our strategy. So the challenge would be that most of these big techs have kind of technology as an advantage, in the sense that probably they keep toggling around with these ideas much more, and the scope for them is much wider, right? I mean, so at maybe some point in time there would be a kind of competition, but largely what we feel is that banks will have their own forte in terms of the trust, the regulatory framework, regulatory advantage, and also customers, right? Whom do customers trust? I think that's the core factor. Where will you trust your money, whether your money is safe with a big tech or your money is safe with a bank, right? So those considerations will drive. But yeah, largely banks are also preparing for it, right? I mean, today, the ROI and those things may not be viable, but yeah, going forward, banks are preparing for it. And as I mentioned, one of the bank in Korea has already launched a meta branch. Some of the banks are already kind of providing a lot more services around metaverses in US and European markets, kind of. So I think we'll see those things evolve.
Okay.
Yeah, and if I may add,
Sure.
right? So even on your risk question, right? I mean, when we move to the digital era, a lot of our risk prevention technologies have gone up, right? Today we have the ability to track, even when you are transacting on your app or on through a website, are you who you are, right? We can track how long does it take typically for you to let's say click enter your password and click login, or things like that, right? So you're able to track your behavior beyond just your OTP and other authentication. Similarly, when it gets to metaverse, now you have far more data. So how you operate, how you speak, all of that will help capture. So I think the fraud prevention technologies will keep pace, and obviously the regulatory environment will provide us that, right? So that I think it will evolve with the and then the other thing essentially in my view is the competition from big tech exists even today, right? So it's not going to change just because it's on metaverse.
Can you also add something on the regulatory part? How strong regulations will be by any chance? Because RBI has not been, or central banks are not looking at it till now.
Yeah, it's early days, but I think there will be frameworks around settlements and and interoperability, right? So for example, today in the Indian context, even cryptos or any sort of NFTs are are not really, RBI is not in favor of that position, right? But I think it will evolve over a period of time, but the regulations have to be strong, because otherwise the trust doesn't come in, right? I mean, if I am transacting with another party, and this will be cross-border as well. So the transaction, the regulatory framework needs to cover not just what we do in India, but from a cross-border standpoint. And India, as we've been saying in these sessions, we are at the forefront of innovation. So I'm pretty sure we will come with, guidelines that allow us to operate rather than saying won't touch it, right?
Sure. So time is almost up, I think, but I will take one quick question with both of you. Maybe you can take as little as 10 to 15 seconds to answer. Because we are seeing a great evolution of digital, and Metaverse is going to be very soon, it's going to be there. Like you said, banks are already heading towards Metaverse and launching their branches in Meta. How do you see the future of Metaverse specifically for banking, maybe next 2 to 3 years? Will we see more branches of, will we see more bank branches in the Metaverse going ahead? How do you see in next 2 to 3 years?
So I think as you deal with any new technology, you kind of experiment, and then once you figure out that there is adaptation by the customers are liking it, and there are positive ROI, I think there will be more investments being done by the banks. Yeah. So I think that's my take.
Sure. Vinay?
Yeah, similar. I think the banks will invest, and most banks will have a presence in the next 2 to 3 years. I think we will start seeing some transactional interfaces there as well, beyond just informational. And, if the regulations come in, I think you will see far more adoption in the next 2 to 3 years.
Sure, Vinay. Thank you so much, Vinay and Hitesh, for sharing some remarkable and realistic thoughts. At least I learned a lot. I at least added 2 more chapters to my Metaverse learning for sure. And the same is with you. Thank you so much, dear friends, for listening to us very patiently. And thank you so much, Hitesh and Vinay, once again. Thank you.
Thank you.